Bum, 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 bum. Good evening. Thursday night here in High G's, sparkly High G's, with the fairy lights in the background. It's 8 o'clock, and I have got a fantastic guest for you this evening. I'm super excited to bring him in and have a chat. Check out the top. He's like representing our big mate Ali. As many people have that have come on here. What can I say about this gentleman? Well, we've not even spoken about this. It's over 30 years ago that I first met him. We were little babies, RAF bucking, and we went our separate ways when I can't remember which one of us left first. I think if I'm right, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've only caught up once, which was recently, in very unfortunate circumstances. So we didn't laugh much then. I think we're going to have a giggle tonight. This man, in my book, has done something I've never seen anybody else do quite as quickly as he did. I don't know whether or not he's still up for it, but we'll get onto that, I think, later on. Let me just introduce you to an absolute wonderful man who, for those that don't know, he may well have been compared to that comedian from the Northeast on more than one occasion. You know the one. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the JFDI podcast, Mr. Steve Chunk Wilson. Good evening.
Hi, Graham. Good evening. How are you doing?
I am very, very well, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for that awesome build-up. I'm up here at the moment now.
Do you want to tell folks just what I have seen you do that I've never seen anybody do in such quick time, and we'll just get it out of the way.
I'm amazed people still remember this. It must have been on the days. It must have been on the days when we were.
You're not going to believe this, right?
Yeah.
The story that you're about to tell. I opened up the fridge tonight. You just know it's that time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I opened up the fridge, and what is sitting there? I haven't seen a box for a while, but it's that time of year. I opened up and I went, you know who I've got on the podcast tonight? And and my good lady wife Karen went, they're not for you. Leave them alone. So you need to tell the world what they were now.
Cadbury's cream eggs.
Yes. So tell the story. How long are we going back? We're going back over 30 years, right?
89, 90, probably.
Yeah.
Probably that far back, 89.
Yeah. So how did it come about?
It was probably one of the weird evening or weekend shifts when we were quiet and all sat in the crew room.
Yeah.
Somebody bet how quickly I could eat a cream egg. And they tell me it went unwraps and down in about 7 seconds. And as far as I know, no one's beat it yet, because they would have told me if they had.
I know. And that's the thing. It's that, you know, it's one that I reckon that we should petition. You see, if it came round, do you reckon, would you be up for it? When was the last time that you did it? Have you eaten a cream egg recently and kind of gone, ha ha, and laughed and gone, I'm gonna see if I've still got it.
Yeah, they're sweeter at the moment. They don't taste the same as they did back in our days. Maybe we should challenge any Scopies who are up at Buchan at the moment on the remote radar head. Can they beat 7 seconds?
There you go. There you go. The challenge is out there. Can you beat? And by the way, just for confirmation there, what you said, that includes taking the wrapper off.
Unwrapping it as well, yeah.
Unwrapping it and getting it down in an empty mouth. 7 seconds. Oh, right.
Challenge is down there. Anyone serving up at Buchan?
The gauntlet's down. So listen, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Like I said, super excited to catch up and have a good chat about all sorts of stuff. I don't know how many of these, if any, you've watched. The whole idea is tunes, and then I normally just kind of I was going to say fire off, but depending on who's watching, that's maybe not my best choice of words. I'll go off on a tangent is probably the best way to put it. So
Tangents are the best way forward, yeah.
yeah. So shall we start with tune number 1?
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me with it.
All right then. So you've given me a song by The Orb, and it's Little Fluffy Clouds.
Yeah, this one, like a lot of them on there, back from my booking days, that was my go-to chill out song after you've had a bad day up at work. There's been QRA on and you've been stuck on movements for 3-4 hours, or you've been stuck in the canteen all day and you're hearing the controllers whinging constantly, or down on the R3 all day, and you come home and you're wound up. Just stick Little Fluffy Clouds by The Orb on, and 5 minutes later, the world's a better place.
Oh. So did you have many? I'm taking it by the fact that it came to your mind fairly quickly. That did you have many of those days where you needed that?
It was hard up at booking at times when you were busy, and it was just a nice, easy, quick way to wind down listening to that one track. I don't have any of the Orb albums. It was from a track of chill out music, a CD of chill out music, about 30 songs. But that's the standout track from there. I just absolutely love it.
Are there any days or any like sort of like, you know, difficult days that really stick out in your mind from back then?
Yeah. Again, one of them, I mentioned it a few moments ago on the R3 picket post. Just down there, and you get forgotten about, don't you?
Oh yeah.
If they're busy up in Ops, somebody would come down for 15 minutes, you'd eat your food, and you'd be back down there. And it was soul destroying. It really was soul destroying. Sometimes the armourers would come out and have a chat to you, and they were good fun.
Yeah.
They're nice guys because they were based just around the corner. They'd come and have a chat. But other than that, it was just a dreadful place to spend your working day.
Yeah. So was there any sort of days there where that you encountered anything that you feel the need to share?
No, not really.
No,
nothing stand out that makes me think, and you still see them rage about it. But no, it was just a nice chilled out way to end difficult days.
Yeah,
listening to that track.
So
I heard it a couple of days ago for the first time in about 15, 20 years. And even though it was the track I put on that was there to chill me out, it just put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Really did. I love it.
So here's a question for you. We'll kind of roll the clock back. So there's going to be a lot of people watching that knew you from RAF Bucking.
Mm-hmm.
On the off chance it does happen, there may be people that watch or listen to this on Spotify that don't know you. So obviously these shifts that we're talking about RAF Bucking in the late 80s, early 90s. But how did you end up there? How did you, what was it that made you like kind of want to join? In fact, go back even further than that. What do you remember about before those days? What do you remember about as a kid?
As a kid, I always wanted to join the military. I never wanted to join the RAF though. That's the ironic thing about this.
Okay.
I wanted to join the military, and I wanted to work around with aircraft in some way or the other. My first choice was the army.
Okay.
As a kid, we used to go to France a lot. And on the cross-channel ferries going to Portsmouth over to France, it's about a 4-hour run each way. And a couple of times we were on that ferry, it was timed with guys coming back from Northern Ireland. And they couldn't get recalled back to Northern Ireland if things kicked off, if they were drunk.
Yeah.
So they would find squaddies on the cross-channel ferries necking the pints. And they were a good laugh as a little kid. And I thought, I want to join the army when I grow up. But my mum wouldn't have it. She said, you've got to get yourself a job. So I worked in a supermarket out of school. I worked in an accounts office, and I hated it. Mum refused to sign me up. She says, well, you can go to the army office when you're 18 and join
Yeah.
up, but I'm not letting you go a day earlier. So I blackmailed them. I blackmailed the parents, and I said, there's this job going in the Air Force. I'd like to do it as a 17, go at 17, but you've got to sign me on. And if you don't, I'm going to sign up as a squaddy at 18. And yeah, they signed me up for the Air Force when I was 17. So I kind of blackmailed them into letting me join.
So you could get there a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I wanted to join the Army Air Corps.
Right. Okay. But were you, so how then did you how did Scopy come about?
I cocked up my aptitude test. The first one was maths.
Right.
And the guy in the recruiting office, he said, look, don't work through it. The answers are quite obvious.
Yeah.
Do some quick rough maths and tick the box, and then move on to your next question, because you've only got a few minutes to finish the questions off.
Yeah.
Not me. I got my paper out and I started doing them through. And I think I only answered about 10 or 12 out of the 20 questions, and I failed the maths bit. It just sounded nice. I've always wanted to live in Scotland as a kid.
Okay.
And the guys, we were talking through your choices. You said, you know, you're going to spend a lot of time in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and that appealed to me.
Right. Okay. What CIO was it that you signed up in?
St. Helens CIO.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, just outside of Liverpool it was. St. Helens.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it was a couple of flukes and a couple of weird little quirks and coincidences. So that's how I ended up in Scotland. And
yeah,
I'm glad it happened that way. I really am.
Yeah. How long did you spend up there then?
I was in Buchan for 2 years. And it was up to Saxon from there. Sorry?
It was only 2 years that you spent there.
2 years at Buchan, yeah.
Crikey.
And it was up to Saxon after 2 years.
What would you say of your time at Buchan? Because that was only 2 years. What would you say is your most vivid memory, apart from tanning a cream egg in 7 seconds?
My first 4 weeks were very, very weird. Okay. Very strange. And it was really hard for me. My first 4 weeks up at Buchan. Turned up at the guard room and they weren't expecting me. So there was no accommodation sorted for me. So I was stuck in a transit block on my own.
Oh.
2 girls come up with me, Donna Hopwood and Sam Cousins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had accommodation waiting for them, but they weren't expecting me. And one Monday morning, I was woken up by the tannoy going off. Alert, alert, alert. All personnel to report to you all locations immediately. I didn't know what to do. No one to ask. So I put my blues on and walks up to the guard room. And they said, right, go back, put your greens on. You can stay here and you're on guard with us.
Okay.
Okay, so I spent the day on guard. Back to the transit block. Tuesday morning. Alert, alert, alert. All personnel to report to war locations immediately.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to stick my greens on and I went back to the guard room. Different guard commander, different policeman. What are you doing? So I explained it to them, right, you can stay here, you're on guard. The Tachyval team had turned, the first time round, the CO wasn't happy with the call out, so we did the call out the day after.
Yeah.
Spent another day on guard. Wednesday morning, alert, alert, alert. All personnel to report to war locations immediately. Same thing, and the Tachyval team had turned up. So I spent my first week on guard in the NFL.
Yeah.
And living in a transit block all on my own. It was very, very weird. Went into Peterhead at the weekend, I think. Bought a kettle and stuff like that as you do your first time there. Monday morning, I went up to Ops, straight into the man-in office and got bollocked for turning up a week late. They didn't know I was there. And they didn't know I was in guard at NFL. No one had told them where I was.
but not charged because you actually had been working.
No, it was all sorted out after a few phone calls. But it was weird that A-Watch was going off shift then.
Yeah.
So I missed seeing them for that whole week.
Yeah.
I was eventually put up in a block with B-Watch, and I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks before I eventually met up with the watch.
Right. Okay.
Because I was supposed to meet them when they came back onto the start of the 4-day cycle. And I was on the 3-day arrival GDT thing with Sergeant Stockton in his little porter cabin doing barbed wiring and work party stuff for 3 or 4 days. So it was about 3 weeks before I actually got to meet any of the people that I was supposed to be working with.
Yeah.
And it was a while before I actually moved into the A-Watch block with them. It was a very, very strange, and I must admit, a quite lonely first 3-4 weeks of the booking.
Where?
Yeah, it was weird. And of course, I would see Donna and Sam in the mess.
Yeah.
And they'd be telling them all these great things that they're learning about in ops. And I'm like, I don't even know what the ops room looks like. It was weird. It was very, very weird.
Crikey. Yeah, sounds very strange.
Yeah.
Does
It was a very, very strange start to a tour up at Booker, definitely was.
Yeah. And then you kind of moved in and kind of got settled in A-Watch, and
yeah,
and that was
it
that.
was a fun block. Yeah.
Where was it? J Block you were in then with the B-Watch guys? That would be.
I can't remember the name of the block. It was the very end block. The old A-Watch block was next to it, and it was condemned, wasn't it? It was flooded out.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it was empty.
Yeah.
So it was a combined watch block.
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it.
Brilliant. I love it, mate. Listen, there's lots of folk just before we move on. There's loads of people kind of tuned in and some comments. So we've got Dave Large agrees with your your choice of little fluffy clouds.
Yeah.
We've got Skip on, says good to see you.
Hi Skip, good to see you too, mate. How are you doing?
We've got your oh yes, your pal
over in Cyprus. Hi Mark, how are you doing?
Mr. K. What's Dave saying? PlayStation 1 with a chill out CD instead of a game made the TV very psychedelic. I remember that. Remember you put a CD in and it was all those sort of psychedelic screensaver type things on the PlayStation. Mr. Back is Mr. Back's in. Evening, lads, he says. Yes, red one, nice. And you've got Mrs. Pierce on as well. Dan's good lady wife, Vicky. Jim, having a watch. Good evening, Jim.
Hello, Jim. My dog's coming to join us. Come in, bud.
Oh, okay.
Here's Pudding.
Oh, what's the is it little boy?
It's a little girl.
Little girl. What's she called?
Yeah, Pudding.
Pudding.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Can you hear me, Pudding?
Sorry?
Can you hear me, Pudding? She's not interested.
No, she's just come for a fuss.
Yeah. There you go. Gary said 2 years felt like much longer. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I agree with Gary. I thought you were there a lot longer than 2 years.
No, I went up to Saxavord with Stretch, and he was there even a shorter time than I was.
Yeah,
he was way less than 2 years from the day we went up to Saxavord.
Yeah, it's funny how the concept of time changes over the years. Oh my lord, Mr. Knox, I thought was in Australia. Oh, morning, evening, fellas. Yeah, okay, great memories. Met him at Saxa, got to run to work. Thank you for tuning in, John.
Hello, John. Thanks for the message. Nice to hear from you.
Mrs. Richardson's in the house.
Hi,
Karen. Mr. Clayfield. Hey, we've got an international crowd.
Yeah, Australia and Canada now.
Yeah, there we go. Right. Anyway, hello everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Shall we move on to Mr. Wilson's next song?
Absolutely.
And talk about Peace at Last by Blue Nile.
Oh, amazing song. It's from the best album of theirs as well, Peace at Last. It's just a nice, reflective song. He's got such a beautiful, soulful voice, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And it's all acoustic and slow, and just love this track. Absolutely love it. You hear it on the telly every now and then. It's used for a lot of tourist videos for holidays in Scotland. It seems to be quite popular. So every now and then you'll be pottering about the house and you'll hear it on the telly. It's nice.
Whereabouts were you when you first heard it?
West Drayton.
Ah, right. Okay, so basic training.
No, as a tour.
Oh, as a tour.
Mid-90s, yeah.
Ah, right. Okay.
Bought the album in the mid-90s.
Right. Okay.
I think it was must have been in Uxbridge, the old HMV shop in Uxbridge.
Wow.
In the good old days where you could go in and spend half an hour flicking through CDs.
Oh.
And they just appealed to me. I heard it being played somewhere. I managed to find out what it was, and I've got a couple of Blue Nile albums since then.
Yeah.
Hats is another nice one as well, and it's just a beautiful, soulful, wonderful song. Nice and uplifting, and but reflective. Kind of song that you can sit back with a nice cup of tea, coffee, or something stronger if you want, and put your feet up and just think about what's happened this past day, and everything's all right in the world.
Yeah, the words are, like you say, the words are quite nice as well.
Yeah,
like they kind of make you think, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So was that you bought that? That was West Drayton. So where did you went from Buchan to Saxa, then to West Drayton? Is that right?
No. Oh God. Towards the end of my time in the Air Force, people kept calling me a jinx. Every unit I went to gets cut. So it was Buchan, Saxavord, T. Croix, West Drayton.
Right. Okay.
So I was on my fourth tour by the time we got to Drayton. Every unit got chopped.
Wow. What would you say was your favourite tour and why?
I can't really pick up on one. All tours were outstanding in different ways.
Yeah.
One thing that I did notice from no matter where I was that you could always tell the Scopies because even on the days off, even if they lived local, people very rarely went home. They all stuck together, even on the days off, even if it was 4 days off and down the road was your home. People tended to stick together. When I was at T. Croix, Davy Phillips was just
arrested as well.
Yeah, at T. Croix, Davy Phillips was just 15 minutes down the road, but he very rarely went home. We all stayed together through days on or days off.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd mentioned his name. So worth a tip of the cap. I don't have a drink. I got my water bottle. We kind of, we did this. Like the absent friends are kind of all the reason, and part of why we're doing this. Such a great guy, and taken from us way too soon, right?
Yeah. Troublemaker as well. He's a real prankster and a practical joker.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
What pranks do you remember of Dave's?
Did you ever come across a Scopie called Sean Clarkson?
The name rings a bell.
Yeah. He lived directly underneath Dave. And he was they were on opposite shifts, Dave and Sean. He was the watch corporal on the watch that relieved Dave backwards and forwards, so on and so forth. So when Sean was on his swing shift, Dave would go out and buy a loaf of bread, tear it into bits and throw it out of his window. So the seagulls had come down at about 10:30, 11 in the morning and wake Sean up. So Sean would be getting ready for work in the evening and his eyes were like drooping. Them bloody birds were at it again last night. It's all down to Dave throwing bread out for him and keeping him awake when he's supposed to be sleeping.
Oh, brilliant. There's a comment from Vicky. I think she's referring to Dave. A pain in the arse. Lovable pain in the arse. Oh, brilliant. What else do you remember about T. Croix then?
T. Croix, the volleyball. We had a volleyball court, and apart from one person in the cabin, there was lunchtime volleyball every day.
Yeah.
It was lovely in the summer. Really was. There was a a little pitch where we play a little bit of cricket as well. It was a very, very chilled out and relaxed tour.
Yeah.
It was built on an old disused army base that the MOD retained a little bit of it, but most of it was a motor racing track.
Oh, okay.
So weekends there was racing on. So you, as well as having your volleyball and your cricket through the week, of a weekend you could sit on top of the Sangas and watch the motor racing at the circuit next to you. It was fantastic.
Oh,
You're right by the sea as well, and in the summer you had a beautiful view across the Menai Straits to Snowdonia. It was a really, really nice place to work when the sun shone.
Yeah.
Desolate in the winter when the storms are blowing off the Irish Sea, but in the summer it was stunning.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love
Yeah,
it. Here's a question for looking back over all of those years, those 4 tours, that time. What advice, as a now, I'll not give the age away, but we're all getting on, aren't we? What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self now, knowing what you know?
Don't do anything different.
You wouldn't.
No.
You would. And that, okay, so you wouldn't do anything different, but if you could offer any words of wisdom, what would they be?
Wow. Asking me to offer wisdom. Nobody's ever done that before, Pinky. I was expecting to hear Vicky chuckling from the living room then, but no. She said don't.
All right.
What words of wisdom would I offer?
Yeah.
Even in the worst of situations, you can find laughter and light.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. And I've written this down. It might be a very similar answer, but what would you consider the biggest lesson that the military taught you?
Biggest lesson that the military taught me?
Yeah.
That you can, even in the most difficult of situations, you can do what you've got to do. You can do the right thing. You can trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Even in the hardest of working conditions, when you'd rather be somewhere else, you can find the best inside you. You can crack on and you can do what you can do good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That whole military approach of kind of knocking you down to build you up, knock you down again to build you up, and knock you down to build you up. Kind of, it builds resilience over a fairly quick period. And like you say, you kind of very soon realize that even the things that you think that you can't do, that you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that, mate. Yeah. And I don't think anybody would disagree. I don't think anybody would ever disagree. So before we move on to the next, you said nobody's ever asked you for words of wisdom. What, if you can think of anybody, what is the best words of wisdom that anybody in the Air Force gave you?
Wow. It's hard to think of one particular thing because you're constantly surrounded by people who you talk to because they are your family.
Yeah. Was there any advice, any sort of situation that you were in that you think at the time you weren't sure, you asked, or you were given advice that's kind of stuck with you through the years?
Wow. This is a level of deep and meaningful I wasn't prepared for, mate. I can't pull one off my head at the moment, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
You're constantly asking questions. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And people will give you advice when you ask these questions. So
Dave Large is offering some. Don't buy a telly, don't buy a car. Save up
save
the
you.
money. Yeah. There you go. So, in fact, let's close off this little section here because this is on the. I'll not go too deep and meaningful, but your whole career came to an end
Mhm.
at some point in time, and you left.
Yeah,
What was it that for you made you decide to leave?
I left after 12.
Okay.
At my 12-year point, I was in for 22.
Yeah.
But I put my notice in and left after 12. I didn't leave the way I wanted to leave. It always surprises people when I bump into them. They always thought I was alive and I'd still be there now.
Right.
Um, but I met Vicky just before I got posted to High Wycombe. Uh, got engaged after 3 months. We've been married 18 years now.
Wow.
For those who are watching who don't know Vicky, Vicky's disabled. She's got cerebral palsy. She's a wheelchair user, and she needs somebody to be on hand to look after her.
Yeah.
We tried speaking to the Rafa lady at High Wycombe, who's a lovely lady, and it turns out that at the turn of the millennium, the Air Force didn't have any wheelchair adapted housing.
At all.
No, there was one office at High Wycombe, well, one flat at High Wycombe, but it was being used as an office by the principal dental officer. And you know,
Right.
Wycombe, it was absolutely jammed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was no room at High Wycombe. There probably still isn't now, but outside of that one room, that one flat in the apartments at High Wycombe that had a flat entry to it, there was no kind of thought given to wheelchair accessible accommodation. So the Rafa lady said she'd try and work through calling up other liaisons and other units, trying to find if there was anything else around there. But then one morning out of the blue, I got a phone call from Warrington Hospital. There'd been a big fire at my mum and dad's house overnight, and my mum, dad, and brother were all in hospital. Can I get home?
Oh.
So I did, got home that day. Boss at High Wycombe was good. He gave me 6 weeks off to get them, try and help them get fit and well and out of the house, and found a place for us to rent. And it was tough, but I came back after the 6 weeks and cracked on as best I could. But it was hard getting up to the north of England at the time because it was not long after the Hatfield rail crash.
Okay.
So the trains weren't running north and south. So the roads were absolutely jam-packed. So my boss let me go at midday every other Friday. So I was getting up to Warrington once a fortnight, helping my family out still, because my mum especially suffered a lot of long-term effects from the fire, mental health effects especially. And I was seeing Vicky for 2-3 hours once a fortnight. And I just thought, enough's enough. The quality of life's not there.
Yeah.
It was taking me 6-7 hours to get home and back on trains and rail replacement services on the bus. And it was absolutely bonkers. Just for a few snatched hours once a fortnight. And I thought, oh, it's not worth it.
So that was enough.
It was a tough decision.
Yeah.
But it was the right decision.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, yeah, I left after 12. I was in from a 22. But it was, on reflection, it's the right thing to do.
Right. And what was the sort of transition period like for you? Like sort of leaving, sort of finding a job,
Wow.
like resettling, all that.
Very weird. We just before I left, we bought a bungalow together, and there was a bungalow that was built in the 70s and hadn't been touched since. So it was rough on the inside, you know, the compulsory avocado bathroom suite, kitchen that was falling apart, stained rooms because the lady who had the house since 1970 was a really heavy smoker, so it was quite brown inside because she wasn't fond of opening the windows. So I said to Vicky, I'm going to kick my CV out. I did the usual scopy thing of doing a couple of IT courses, kick my CV out, but I'm going to take 3-4 months off, and I'm going to do the house up. And I was climbing the walls after a fortnight. Absolutely climbing the walls after a fortnight. I thought, I've got to get myself a job. Not only because something to do, but doing a house up takes a lot of money, and I was just chewing my way through everything that was in the bank.
Right.
You're going to laugh at this. My first job was as a rent boy.
Sorry. Oh, mate, I'm just waiting for the comments to come in on that.
What, with that face, you wouldn't have made a penny. I can hear him now.
I don't know. Like that job, it's not the face that people are interested in, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to pay to get with us. No, I just handed my CV into a job agency, and I got a phone call a day or two later. Do you want to be a rent collector, going door to door collecting rent? I'll just take any job I had because we were plowing through the money that quickly. I said, yeah, I'll do it, thinking that I'll get an interview for an IT job in a couple of months' time and everything will be all right and I'll be on the career that I wanted at the time. I ended up doing it for a year. I absolutely loved it. Right. The pay was abysmal, but most of the time you were going from door to door, pensioners in sheltered housing and council-owned retirement bungalows. And some of the time you'd be the only visitor that they would see all day. So you didn't go just to collect the rent.
Yeah.
You were there visitor, you got welcomed in, you got sat down, you know me, I'm fond of my grub. And tea, cakes, sandwiches, biscuits, and you'd be sat there just spending your day, whiling your day away, speaking to these amazing people about themselves.
Yeah.
There was a couple of old Air Force chaps from the Second World War there as well. They had really interesting stories. I remember them quite distinctively because the stories they told were incredible. They were both Bomber Command. Mr. Ford was a navigator on the Whitleys right at the start of the war. The Whitley's nickname was the Flying Coffin. And it was a really slow bomber. So they were always at the back of the bomber stream going out to Germany. And so the Germans knew they were coming by then and which route they were on, and they suffered the highest casualty rates. And he was 18 missions before his aircraft was hit and he was wounded and he had to stop flying. But on just 18 missions in a Whitley, in the start of the war, you were considered an extreme veteran crew.
Wow. And
the other guy was Mr. Faircloth. He was a rear gunner on a Lancaster. He was shot down over Paris. And he managed to escape and evade over the Pyrenees and walked to Spain. Came back to the UK from Spain and finished his tour off. Amazing guys, they really were.
Yeah. So you did that for a year.
Did that for a year. I loved it.
Yeah. So what resulted in you moving on from there then?
It was only ever a temporary job. It was like a maternity cover for 6 months, and I got bumped again from 6 months more maternity cover, and that was coming to the end.
Yeah.
So it was a year there. It was a shame to leave.
Right. But enjoyed it.
I had to buy bigger pants doing it. By the time I left, I ate that much cake and apple pie. But it was a lovely way to spend your day.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice. That's nice. Yeah. That we've got a couple more comments here. This sounds like another story. Mo's asking. He says no mention
fire. Oh yeah.
I know this one. I was wondering whether or not we'd get to this. Was this about
the mattress in the block at Buchan?
Yeah. What happened
there? My mattress got too far next to the radiator one evening, and I forgot to turn it off. And it's the electric wall heaters, weren't they?
Yeah.
And my duvet got too close to it, and just started smouldering away one evening.
But had you not gone on tonight?
Yeah, we were on night. We were on there. Well, I was on GCI, I think, because I came back down.
Had the block not been evacuated by the time you got down?
Yeah, the block had been evacuated by that point, and my blackened duvet and duvet cover was lying on the floor, and by God, the block didn't half whiff for weeks afterwards. But there were a couple of guys spent the night in Aberdeen Infirmary as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did the right thing. Training kicked in.
Yeah.
and they were banging on people's doors to get people out.
Yeah.
And they must have kicked my door down to see what was happening, to try and get me out because I wasn't responding. And they let the smoke out, and a couple of them got a few lungfuls of it.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. I promised no more deep and meaningful, because, but I'm going to ask you this now, because that story you've told, you've already got a cop out if you need it. But I've written down here, what would you consider your biggest failure, and what did it teach you?
Biggest failure in the Air Force?
Well, in life.
In life, wow. Not paying attention in school, definitely. I was a daydreamer in school.
Right.
Didn't like it. Yeah, I liked geography at school.
Yeah.
That's how I got interested in aeroplanes. My favorite book as a kid was an encyclopedia. And I loved learning the capital cities of countries. And
Right.
through that, got an interest in aviation, reading through the encyclopedia. So
Ah,
geography was really the only lesson at school that interested me.
yeah.
I find it hard. I do suffer still now from dyslexia quite a bit. Maybe
Yeah.
if I'd paid a bit more attention in school, they could have got picked up on a bit better. And a bit better is probably not the right thing to say. Could have got picked up on, and that would have helped me. But even today, I still get a bit confused. I get my mucking words in a fuddle every now and then.
Yeah. But if I'm right in saying that probably has been the catalyst for you continuing to learn and sort of increase your skill sets since you've left the military, right? Because you've gone on to kind of to do quite a bit of study as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So never stop learning, even if you're just picking up a book and reading.
Yeah.
You got to keep it. You got to keep the old grey matter active to try and keep if you're young upstairs, you'll be young downstairs. Keep yourself active, mentally as well as physically.
I've not heard that one before. If you're young upstairs, you'll be young downstairs.
Yes.
Okay. We'll attribute that to you, Steve Wilson.
Yeah, you can do. I'll copyright that now.
Okay. I've got loads more tunes, but loads more questions, but we'll go on to your third tune, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that, because I am really interested, like, talking about learning and continuing to sort of study and that sort of developing your mind. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But it's a great place to come on to your next tune, which is a Marillion song.
Yes, the good old Marillion.
And it's Bluebird.
Bluebird. Yeah.
Yes. So why this one? What does it kind of what does it bring memories back of?
It's unusual for a Marillion track because it's not 20 minutes long.
Right.
It's about 4.5, 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
But like most Marillion songs, it tells a true story of somebody I think is quite inspirational, which is Donald Campbell.
Ah, okay.
The album it was on, Afraid of Sunlight, a lot of the tracks on it are based on real life stories. Gazpacho is about O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
There's 2 songs on there, Afraid of Sunlight, Afraid of Sunrise, which are very loosely based on the Jack Kerouac book On the Road.
Yes.
There's a song on there called King, which is about Elvis. And I like these songs that are about real life people or real life events. And I just found Donald Campbell very, very inspirational as a kid. I had a book on Bluebird, the cars and the boats that I loved flicking through as a kid. And when the album was released, someone somewhere in the UK, I don't know who the guy's name was, listened to the track and then decided he wanted to raise Bluebird from the bottom of Coniston Lake. And that's what happened 20 years after the track was released. And the band were invited down on the day that it was eventually raised from the bottom of the lake and brought to the shores.
Wow.
So I really like that story, how an event that happened over 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
The songs made it relevant, and you can now go to the Bluebird Museum in the Lake District and see the restored boats on display.
Oh, fascinating.
It's an amazing journey. It really is. And it all came because of the song.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. So in keeping with Marillion, then, I do have to ask you this. Mr. Kerslake won't forgive me if I don't. He's asked me to ask you about the Hemel Hempstead gig.
Oh gosh, Hemel Hempstead and arachnophobia. He tried to swap my VW camper van for the Marillion tour bus. They turned him down, thankfully. Oh gosh, it's probably the last time I was drunk.
Right.
The year 2000, so 22 years ago, apart from the gooseberry wine incident, but that wasn't my fault.
Oh, the occasions when we're drunk are rarely our own fault, mate.
No, well, this was Kerslake's fault.
All right, okay.
The Apple aftershock. Oh.
Oh. Ah, right, okay.
We took the day off. The concert was a Friday evening. We took Friday off, piled into a camper van, found somewhere to park right next to where the theatre was, and we started on the pop very, very early in the day.
Yeah.
And by the time it come to the concert, I had to watch it sat down on the floor right at the back of the auditorium. I couldn't stand up. It's all Kerslake's fault. He's not here to defend himself, and I like it that way.
Well, what we can do is, I'm not sure if he's on the list. I've got a number of lists, you see.
Yeah.
I think that he would be great on here as well, don't you?
He would.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he's got to say about that. We'll bring him. We'll try and get him on and give him his right to reply, shall we?
That was a good concert. That was my first Marillion concert. I really enjoyed myself for that. Yeah, first time I'd ever seen him live.
Ah, right. Okay. What would you say? It's maybe going to be a different gig. What would you say is your favourite gig?
Favourite gig was Jazz Cafe in Camden, the James Taylor Quartet.
Oh,
that was a great night out.
Do you know, I've never been in there.
No?
No.
I was at Stanmore at the time, so it was just 20 minutes into the city centre on the tube, and quick 5-minute walk up to Camden. And James Taylor Quartet, they came on at 7 o'clock, and they pretty much had to be forced off the stage by the cafe owners saying, "We've got to shut." I'd never heard their music before, other than knowing that they were the guys that did the theme tune for Starsky and Hutch.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was a really, really memorable night. There's Ali, JTQ now.
Yeah, Ali's ears have pricked up. You've mentioned JTQ.
They played a lot of songs from an album called Do the Right Thing, which is locked away in my collection somewhere now. And fantastic night. It's the best concert I've ever been to.
Oh, fantastic. Love it. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to get Mark on. He said only half the story.
Only half the story. What's the other half of the story? Is it the beers or the vodka? Or the vomiting? We're not going to talk about that. People might be eating.
Yes. Julie says hello.
Hiya, Jules.
And Stu McCann's got a question for you.
Do you still like watching cartoons? What's sad nowadays is that there's no cartoons really on the telly. Kids can't turn on the telly Saturday morning and watch an hour of idiots, anvils, falling pianos, and roadrunners trying to blow up coyotes.
That's
true. That's what childhood's made of.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the same.
No,
it's not the same. My daughter watches anime. I've tried, but it's very different now, isn't it? Yeah. So you no cartoons at the moment then?
No, I catch a South Park every now and then and a bit of Family Guy.
Ah, brilliant. So that what do you watch?
What do I watch?
Yeah.
Very little.
Do you?
I'm on the go until 8, half 8
Yeah.
most days. Collapse down onto the sofa. So it's mainly box sets on Netflix, really.
Yeah.
Just started watching Inventing Anna, which is
Oh yes,
quite
that
interesting.
one.
Yeah, I've followed
Yeah.
the news on that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Listened to a Radio 4 series on her, on the fake heiress, and her jaunts around the world at other people's expenses.
Yeah.
I'm quite enjoying it.
Oh, there you go. I missed a comment earlier on. Malcolm was just saying you weren't ready
You
for
weren't
school.
ready for
And
school, and that's it.
I was always
You're
wondering.
obsessed with wrestling.
There you go. Yeah,
Ah, brilliant.
I love it. Oh, he's come back. Jack Daniels,
Oh
apparently.
God, yeah, that was probably drunk in large quantities as well.
Yes. So that's what you're watching. Here's one for you. What about reading? What was the last book that you read or listened to, be it audiobook, that inspired you?
Oh gosh, I'm a voracious reader.
Hmm.
I've been book shopping today.
Oh, right.
Uh,
Okay.
I've got nowhere to put them. I
What
took
about a
5 books.
bookshelf?
I took 5 books to the charity shop, promising myself I'd only buy 5 more books. I've got 3 bookcases in the house
Right.
and a cupboard full of books that have still to be read. But
Okay.
I've got nowhere to put them. That's my stash from today.
All right. Okay. So what one that you've read most recently would you recommend? Which one's a
Oh,
right good read? Inspiring or
this one.
otherwise?
Oh, Carrier Observer by Gordon Wallace.
What's that about?
He's a guy who was, the Navy called them observers. They were navs in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And he survived the entire Second World War flying the old biplane torpedo bombers off Royal Navy aircraft carriers.
Oh, right. Okay.
He
Wow.
was sunk twice.
Yeah.
He missed being sunk a couple more times because he was on shore duty at the time.
Yeah.
Crash landing in Libya, being captured by the Italians, evading the Italians. It's a really, really amazing story.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go, listeners, watchers, Carrier Observer.
Carrier Observer, Gordon Wallace, it is called. And it shows what people went through all those years ago. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. They felt duty bound to do it.
Yeah.
And we're living in tough times at the moment, and it just makes you reflect. And if you're getting a bit down about COVID and this, that, and the other, you just think back to what these people were doing in the 1940s, and making the sacrifices that we've had to over the last year or two doesn't seem too bad when you reflect upon it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, very good point. Almost like you knew what my next question was going to be as well.
All right.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you've faced within the last 10 years?
Within the last.
Yeah. And that challenge, how did you overcome it?
Oh, wow. Vicky's had a couple of health scares in the last 10 years.
Okay.
The first one was 7 years ago now. And she'd spent the weekend looking absolutely lifeless.
Yeah.
Asleep, and was getting a little bit delirious by the time I phoned the doctors. Doctors came out, rushed her into hospital, and she had sepsis, what they'd now call sepsis.
Yeah.
Her blood was poisoned with an almost fatal dose of amylase. So they were desperately trying to get her blood get her rehydrated because she hadn't drunk much in the past couple of days,
Yeah.
and get her blood filtered. And the next day, I got a phone call from Warrington Hospital. Can you get in? Your dad's in hospital. He's not going to live through the night. And I wouldn't leave Vic to go and see him.
Gee,
So that was tough.
crikey.
That was really tough.
How long were things sort of touch and go?
Vic was in hospital for 8 days,
Right.
and then off work for 4 months before
Oh,
she was fit enough to get back to work.
right. Okay. And how did that affect like your work and then kind of balancing things to obviously because you obviously had to be there to care for her, right?
Yes, with them. And then when I had to, I at the same time as doing my own studying, I was working as a bookkeeper as well at the time. And
Yeah.
Vic's mum and dad would come here, or I would take Vic up to her mum and dad's to allow me to get to work, and they'd look after her for the day.
Right.
And then another one with Vic. Sorry, go on.
I'm just saying, tough times.
Yeah, and we laugh about this one now. She's checking in and laughing in the living room at the under end of the house now. I had an accident with her just coming up to 4 years ago now. I tripped over. I was carrying her out of the car into her mum and dad's house, and I tripped over the front door step, and we both fell on the floor.
Oh, no.
And she broke her hip.
Oh, mate. No, no.
Yeah, that was a bad one. She was in hospital for 3 weeks with that one.
Crikey.
But it's been we've found positives with it.
Yeah.
Like, this may sound weird, but life now is easier because she had her accident.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
When you're a kid and disabled, the NHS will throw resources at you.
Okay.
And then when you're 18, you're on your own. So I never had any help in looking after Vic about the house. But then we had this accident, and the occupational health people came in, and physiotherapists came into the house when she came home. And I've now got a house full of mobility aids to let me lift her, carry her, and move her about the house. And I'm not wrecking my lower back anymore.
Well, there you go. So you have found a positive about it.
Yeah.
So I've got something else to ask you about your good lady as well. About Vicky, because I thought about this, and I thought if I ask you this question, I might get a very different answer.
Okay.
So if I was to ask Vicky, and she's at the other end of the house, so she's not going to come, but you can tell us what if I was to ask Vicky what your best and worst features are, your best and worst qualities, if you will.
Yeah.
What would she tell me?
She's got hearing like a bat. She'll probably have heard that. Did you catch that, Vic? Yeah, go on, hit me with it. He's devilishly handsome.
Oh yeah. Are you sure you didn't meet when you were a rent boy?
Yeah, that's the bad one. Great in the kitchen. Yeah. What was the other one? Stubborn.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not stubborn. I do enough of that.
Oh, brilliant. Right, okay. Listen, we've done an hour already, mate, and we've got two songs left.
Oh, so
all right. Hit me with the story of the wonderful Welsh Catatonia and International Velvet.
International Velvet, wow. It's a song that they always play on BBC Wales before a rugby game in Cardiff. Well, any Six Nations game in Cardiff.
Yeah.
They always have a studio in a pub or outside the ground from 8-9 o'clock in the morning. And if we're in the car and pottering about, they play it at least once an hour. And it just fires you up ready for the rugby. I love rugby.
Yes.
Absolutely love the game. And I get excited, really excited by the Six Nations every year.
Yeah.
It brushes away the winter blues.
Mm.
Christmas is gone, New Year's gone, people get down. No, a couple of weeks and the Six Nations starts. So they play this song a couple of times per show. And Cerys Matthews has got the most beautiful, witchy voice.
Yeah.
But when she sings in Welsh, it sends shivers down your spine. It really does. And it just fires you up.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that kick-off. And it just sets the tone for the rugby day. The excitement starts to build as soon as you hear those first few distinctive notes played in the record.
Yeah.
Record, my God, that's old, isn't it? They're not records anymore, are they?
No, well, as long as you weren't taking that story into like how you heard it on Saturday as well, and then we'll just park that, I think, will we?
Yeah, you don't want to talk about that, do you?
No, I don't want to talk about that. No, I don't want you to talk about it either.
Yeah.
No, we've had a previous guest has chosen a Catatonia song, but it was a different one. But that's a nice sort of reason. And I'll need to check it. So she sings that in Welsh as well.
She sings it in Welsh. The chorus is in English.
Yeah.
The verses are in Welsh.
Right.
It's just fires you up ready for the rugby. It really does.
So you love rugby. We know that you used to love cartoons. Mm-hmm. We know that you can eat a cream egg from getting the wrapper off and into your mouth and down the hatch in 7 seconds. So tell me something about Steve Wilson that nobody or very few people know.
I'm going to go back to rugby if I can.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm probably... I actually briefly held a world record for rugby.
Yeah.
Taking part in the world's largest scrum, but we were beaten after a fortnight. I think there was 300 of us. Yeah. North Wales and Featherstone fans come together to form the biggest scrum one day. Yeah. But it only lasted a fortnight before the record was beaten. But briefly held a world record.
Well, do you know what? Right, I've done something even worse. So that at least you held the world record for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I was in a crowd at a music festival where we were part of a world record for the greatest number of people in one place doing air guitar at the same time.
All right.
And that world record stood for a day until they did it the very next day, and the crowd that were there were bigger than they beat the record. So there you go. I like that. Biggest scrum. Yeah. Over 300 people.
300 people in a scrum, yeah. It's been beaten a couple of times since then.
Wow. I take it, obviously, there clearly weren't too many Scots in it because it would have been collapsed after a couple of seconds. Sorry if we can't laugh at ourselves and our own.
You gotta laugh, yeah. And another claim to fame with rugby was I'm probably the oldest person ever to be named in be given accreditation as being part of a rugby league squad that won a major trophy.
How did that come about?
I was the mascot.
Boom.
Absolutely, yeah. That was a great day. I love doing that.
You've got to tell us. You've got to tell us what was the mascot?
I was the mascot for the North Wales Crusaders Rugby League team.
Right.
And you had to be given official accreditation to get on the pitch. It was played at Bloomfield Road in Blackpool, in the cup final of the iPro Cup. So it was a semi-professional rugby league cup. And you had to be given official accreditation. So I was made a member of the squad for the day.
Brilliant.
And it was a hoot and a half, one of the best days I've ever had. Going out to the pitch.
Were you mascot inside like a costume?
Big costume, yeah.
What were you dressed as?
Colin the Crusader is like a knight.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
very nice. There you
Hot
go.
work. Hot work, very tough on the knees. So I had to pack it in a couple of years ago and they started creaking a bit too much.
Right.
A great day. We won. Got a
Yeah.
picture of myself holding the iPro Cup, picture with the guys, and got to dance with the Sky Sports dancing troupe in the middle of the pitch as well.
Nice.
So they were all doing the professionally choreographed routine, and I just busted straight into them in a costume and an inflatable leek in this hand and an inflatable daffodil in the other hand. And started dancing like it was Friday night at the Granada.
Mate, there has to be some footage of that on YouTube. I will be expecting a link in the next few days.
There probably is somewhere.
I'll bet there is.
Oh,
Especially if
Vic's just shouted, I've got it.
who's that, Vicky?
Vicky's just shouted, I've got it.
Send it to me, please, Vicky. Oh, fantastic. Right, okay. One more song, and I've got some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Before we go into that, because we've got quite a few people still watching, I should say this at the beginning, but I've got so many questions that I like to ask.
Yeah.
We've asked the questions that people have asked you. So if anybody's got any more that you need to have Steve answer, then fire them in. And if there's questions in before we've gone through the last song and a few quick fire, then we'll throw them over to you.
Yeah, throw them away.
But your last choice of song, I knew this one would go down well with not only my good lady wife, but my brother-in-law, who are both massive Mike Oldfield fans. And you've gone for Ascension.
Yes.
Yeah, this is quite well, I mean, it's very Mike Oldfield, right?
Yeah, very Mike Oldfield. And again, it's following a theme that the songs that I've picked are quite chilled and laid back. And again, another tune that it's based on a book. The Songs of Distant Earth is an Arthur C. Clarke book.
Ah, okay.
And he picked it up, Mike Oldfield picked it up from a shop at Heathrow from a pound in one of the offer buckets when he was going to catch a flight. And he said when he was reading the book, he could hear the music in his head that he knew he had to write for the album. So he contacted Arthur C. Clarke and told him what happened on this flight and said, can I write some music and call it The Songs of Distant Earth? And he said, yeah, of course you can. It's a fascinating book to read as well. It's Arthur C. Clarke, so it's science fiction based and space based, but it's about the last days of the world before the sun goes supernova and the earth gets consumed by it. We managed to send off ships to terraform other planets. And it's about the journey of when these two ships came together on the one planet.
Wow.
It's a fascinating book, and it's a very, very laid back, again, chilled out piece of music.
Yeah. So the book is called what
Songs
was
of Distant Earth.
Songs of Distant Earth. Yeah. So when Mike Oldfield asked to write that, did he then release an album?
Yeah, it's released as an album.
Released as an album, Songs of Distant Earth. And that's how long is that song on the album? Is it? It's not. That's not it was a shorter one, wasn't it? Because Mike Oldfield's up there, isn't he? He kind of his songs are quite often longer than Marillion's.
Yeah, it's a one-piece concept album, about 60 minutes of music, but it's just broken down into little chunks as the music changes pace, changes tempo, changes rhythm.
Yeah.
Each bit of that is given a different track name.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another one to chill to.
Definitely.
Brilliant.
It's on YouTube as well, that one. You can listen to it free of charge.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. There
free
we go.
Music. You don't get that much these days, do you?
Well, no.
The New Marillion album just cost me 30 quid. So
the new one, Marillion album.
Yeah, that's just set me back 30 quid. So to get a bit of free music online's nice.
So what you must have bought that on vinyl for 30 quid, right?
Double CD.
Double CD.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. Do you buy vinyl still?
I've not bought any for a couple of years, but I've still got vinyl.
Yeah.
Pride of collection is my Tubular Bells picture disc.
Oh, very nice.
I've got that one tucked away. That's my retirement there.
Right. Yeah, the closest I can offer on picture disc is I've got a Prince picture disc in the symbol. That's going to my daughter Charlotte when I peg it, along with all the other Prince albums. But that's what we do up here in High G's. You see, I've got all the vinyl. Anyway, we'll not bore everybody with that. But when everybody else is gone, in the green room, I'll give you a wee tour. I'll show you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Laden with music. But you're right. Everything now, free music. Yeah. But then back in the day, there wasn't so much, we didn't get free music, did we, really?
Yeah. No, it's true.
We always had to pay for it. What was here's one for you. What was the first single that you ever bought? Because it'll have been, I'm guessing, like a 7-inch vinyl.
Yeah, Stray Cats Runaway Boys was the first record I ever bought.
Oh, those hairdos.
Yeah, big. Is it Keith Strickland, who's the singer, the American guy?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
That was the first single I ever bought.
Yeah.
I got it because I was bought Boots gift vouchers, Boots music vouchers.
That's right, yeah.
That old, you could only buy music from a chemist when I was a kid. I bought Stray Cats Runaway Boys and the music to the film Flash Gordon by Queen. My first two records.
Do you remember the chemist? There was a chemist at Buchan and Peterhead that you could buy records as well. Do you remember? And it wasn't Boots. Was it called Yule's? This is where you.
I can't remember its name.
Oh, Ali.
I can't remember the names of the streets, but it's the street that the Jolly Roger was on.
Yes, that's right.
On the opposite side, there was two hairdressers, and then the one, I'm sure it was just by those two hairdressers.
It was.
The chemist, they had the CDs in the middle, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I think it was literally next door to the door that you went in upstairs to Jim, who used to cut my hair with a fag hanging out of his mouth. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that one.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Quick fire questions, and then we're done. Okay. So, well, they might be quick. If you had £100 million, it was Yule's. There you go. I knew the girls that worked in there. I'll bet you did more. Okay.
Didn't Davy Pearce end up dating one of those girls from Yule's?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Mo be typing.
Mo might know that.
Yeah.
Was she the lady from Peterhead, Mo, that Dave Pearce dated? Was she from Yule's?
We will go.
He'll get back to us.
Yeah. Right. £100 million. There you are, Steve.
Yeah.
What would you do with it?
Animal charity.
Animal?
Definitely set up an animal charity, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Any particular animal or a variety of animals?
Dogs.
Dogs?
Dogs are, what was that, Vic? Horses. Vic sponsors a horse in Red Wings.
Oh, lovely.
Every year as well. So she's into a horse. I'm allergic to bloody horses.
Oh.
I only found...
So you would get money, but you wouldn't be wanting to spend any time with them.
No, she can look after the horses. I'll have the dogs.
Right, okay.
I only found out I was allergic to horses when I took Vic to Vienna for a 40th birthday.
Right, okay.
30th birthday.
Yeah.
And she'd always wanted to go see the Spanish riding school. So we were in the Spanish riding school in Vienna. The guys are in the arena doing the formation riding, practicing. Yeah. And I start to get bunged and struggle to breathe. And my eyes are streaming, my nose is streaming. And Vic's elbowing me. Will you shut up? They're trying to practice. I'm trying to breathe. I sound like the Darth Vader in his throes of death. I can't bloody breathe. Will you shut up? You're putting them off. So after she loved it, and after one of the most miserable hours of my life, we go to leave the arena, and one of the staff pulls to one side. Would you like to come in the stables? Ah. So instead of being 50 feet away from them,
You're
we're
right
2
now.
foot away from the horses in the stables.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she was trying to kill me for the insurance money.
So
But
that's
no, £100 million.
brilliant.
I'd set up a charity for dogs,
Yeah.
the unloved and elderly dogs that never seem to get rescued.
Right.
Put something together for them, definitely.
Fantastic.
Dogs
Love
are
it.
just the best.
Yeah. Man's best friend, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
when
we
it's feeding time.
getting badgered to get a dog. Charlotte, it's not happening. We had a budget. We might have another budget. No, yeah.
As soon as I said to Vicky, I'm quitting my job and setting up my own bookkeeping business at home, she went, "We can have a dog. We can have a dog. We can have a dog."
Yeah. Listen, I'm on to quick fire questions, and you never really told me about the bookkeeping business.
But,
So
oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean,
We've not talked about it, have we? We got sidetracked.
no, we did. Yeah. So how did that kind of come about?
Oh, okay. I was a civil servant. After my year as a rent boy,
Yeah.
my proper job then was a civil servant for 12 years.
Okay.
And we were threatened with the axe after 4 or 5 years. And I thought to myself, if we do get chopped, I'm up against 400 people probably applying for the same kind of jobs. I need a skill to stand out in admin. So I decided just to do a little basic AAT course.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was nerdy, it was geeky. I like numbers. I just took to the learning side of it.
Yeah.
And went through my AATs, and towards the end of the AATs, decided to set up and give it a go working for myself.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And how long did that last?
It was the spring last year.
Right.
It was only ever supposed to be a part-time thing.
Yeah.
3.5 days a week, which is what I was doing in the civil service, so I can look after the house, look after Vicky. But it just snowballed and got out of control. I was working 6 days a week. I was working evenings, and it was affecting me, my health-wise. I wasn't sleeping. I was stressed, and I got sleep apnea kicked in at the same time. And I knew something had to change this time last year. When you're trying to keep up to date with all the changes, this is the hard thing about bookkeeping. Doing the courses and the learning and the online classes is fun. Trying to keep up to date through legislation, through websites and through emails and through newsletters, it was just too much. And I knew I had to stop because it was affecting our health.
Right.
Even with Vicky helping me out, it was just getting too much.
Okay.
So I had to pack it in May last year.
Right. That must have been a tough decision in itself.
It was, because it had not long finished qualifying.
Yeah.
I'd only finished my last exam a year or so prior.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was again, same as it was the decision to leave the Air Force. It was a big decision.
Yeah.
It was a tough decision, but it was the right decision.
Yeah. You kind of wrapped the business up then.
Yeah, finished at the end of June.
Right. And what are you doing now?
I'm doing ironing. It's mate. Look, there's my kit over in the corner there.
Yeah.
Stacked away by my Air Force certificates. Again, if it wasn't for the Air Force, I wouldn't be doing ironing.
Right. Because you didn't know how.
First full day at recruit training.
Yeah.
You taught how to iron your kit.
Yeah.
Here's how you do your shirts, your trousers. And I said to Vic, let's give this a go. And just an idea off the top of my head. Now, Vicky's a whiz. Oh, the dog's back. Come and say hello again, bud. Vicky's a whiz with social media. She said, I can get you some clients and let you know if it's a good business idea. Let me do you some social media.
Yeah.
So we went live one Sunday morning, and I had the first contact with a potential customer within an hour. and first booking for ironing 3 hours after. I had a job a day from that next week, and it's something that there's a huge need and huge demand for. I've got a reserve list now of people who want to use me for their ironing, but I don't have the time to do them.
Wow.
I'm earning pretty much the same ironing as I was bookkeeping.
Never.
But without the stress.
Yeah.
Without the need to keep your skills up to date and do courses. And you've got to continually sit exams to stay qualified with bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I'm in the living room and the telly's on, there's music's on, the dog's by me, and it's lovely. It's really, really nice.
Do you know, that is absolutely lovely. And I think that the big thing there is you're in the house, you're doing something that actually you clearly enjoy.
Yeah.
You're there for Vicky as well. And at the point in time that you don't want to, like, you work your hours.
Yeah.
And then and that's it. Less off your mind. Less. Fantastic.
So on that Sunday, when these orders started coming, these bookings coming, Vic said, "What if somebody wants you to iron a dress or a skirt? You've never ironed a dress or a skirt before, have you?" And no, I've not. So Vic came up with the idea of going to charity shops, buying some dresses and skirts so that I can practice ironing on them. And if I burn them or make a mess, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
People must have thought I was the world's most unconvincing transvestite when I was in these charity shops in Oswestry. Because I was holding these dresses up going, it's a size 18 in a velour material with pleats. I haven't got one of these. I'll have this. They must have thought I was the world's worst transvestite looking at all these dresses. This is size 10. That's a bit small, but I'll have a go at
it. That is hilarious. I'm so glad I asked you. We very nearly missed that. Oh, mate, unbelievable. Right, listen, last few questions, definitely. One you'll love. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Curry.
Yes. How hot?
Sorry?
How hot? How
spicy?
Hot
you can make it.
Oh, yes. Do you know, Craig Neal was on here a couple of weeks ago. I'm loving this. I'm getting the he said exactly the same thing. I think he said, "Give me a chicken vindaloo."
Yeah.
So, brilliant. Okay. Beer or wine or something else? Beer?
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, if you could have that beer with somebody famous, dead or alive, who would it be?
Rick Mail.
Oh. Andy Holmes said the exact same thing. And and somebody else. There's a couple of people have said that.
Yeah.
A couple of people have said that. Right. I've got. Yeah, go on.
When I started my job with the civil service, we had like a 2-week course, a getting to know each other course, the people that we'd gone through. And one of the things we did was fantasy dinner date.
Yeah.
If you were to set a dinner party up for 3 famous people, who would it be? And I picked a chef. I can't remember which chef. And I picked Aid Edmondson and Rick Mail.
Yeah.
And they said, why would you do that? I'd send the chef off to cook. And me, Aid and Rick would spend our time drinking beers around the dining table, telling puerile knob and fart jokes. And I think it would be a great dinner party.
Fantastic. I love it. There you go. I've got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
One of which I'm going to ask you, and then there's just some closing comments that I think we need to put up on the screen because you've made some people really laugh this evening. Somewhere that you would like to visit that you've never been, that you'd like to go. Alaska. Oh, lovely. Yeah. Lovely. You need to wrap up warm.
Oh yeah. Even in the summer, you've got to wrap up warm there. I'd love to go to Alaska.
Yeah. Right. I'm not going to put all these comments up on the screen, but we'll read them out. Yeah. Mo confirmed Yule's. Dave Pierce, he said no, but Dave's still up there. There you go.
Wow. You still driving that little white Fiesta that didn't have a floor?
Oh, mate, that was a long time. I remember that.
You remember that one, do you? It was a death trap, that thing.
Yeah. Mark said he can testify to you being a brilliant bookkeeper. Bladesy's on. Good evening. He said, Chunkster, what a lovely chap. Oh yeah, and yeah, I believe you, Bladesy. He said that's the same reason
I have some dresses.
Yeah, right. we Steve and I both know why you have dresses, mate.
He's got the legs to pull it off, hasn't he?
Oh. And we'll give the last comment here to Mr. Knox in Australia, because
that's nice, Knoxy.
I could not put it better myself. John Knox says, a legend. Chunk, you've sent me off to the office howling with laughter. Thank you, buddy. There you go.
You're welcome, John. Glad I made your day.
On that note, one final question. It's not This Is Your Life, but if it was, I've got a big orange book here.
Right.
What would the story of your life be called?
What would
your life story be called?
What would my life story be called? Oh, okay. Yeah. Vicky nags me because I do tend to fart a lot because I'm fond of the curry. Several years ago, I said to Vic, I'm getting a bit old and putting a bit of weight on. I'm going to do a 10K race.
Yeah.
And I started training for it. And one day I said, I'm off out. There I go, chariots of fire. And Vic went, no, you're not. Your chariots of flatulence. So that's what you could call my life on. That's what you could call my life story on This Is Your Life. Chariots of flatulence.
Oh, I love it. I love it. In fact, I've loved the last 1 hour and 27 minutes.
An hour and a half, wow.
Of your company. It has been an absolute blast catching up. Final word. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. There's no podcast next week because I'm taking a little break to go and spend some time in Spain with my mum and dad. But we'll be back the week after with another ex-forces chap. I will keep it a surprise just in case he doesn't turn up. It's been a long time coming in getting this guy on, just with shifts and stuff. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. So thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody has enjoyed Steve's chat. Steve, it's been wonderful. Thank you very much. Any final words for the listeners and the viewers this evening?
It's been a pleasure, Graham. Thanks for having me on. And just hold on to them fond memories from the past. Never let them fade. Never let them fade.
Yeah. Thank you, mate. Listen, thank you so much indeed. Stay there. And to everyone else, we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another GFDI podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We shall